Have no remarks. City administration remarks.
Would you like to go, sir?
Oh, go ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. We tried to have a meeting last month, but we didn't quite have a quorum, so pretty much carrying over the same agenda. There's a lot going on in the city with new developments, looking good. So it's been taking a lot of all of our time, especially with us being a little shorthanded right now. So we're still working with all subs, all the developments, the 4 developments that are coming in. Tractor Supply is getting real close to getting all of their plans to us. We're working on the whole, finishing up the 30 acres of getting that water system into our water CCN, where Tractor Supply is going to go. Spanish Church has agreed to give us a water line easement across the back, so things are looking up. As far as the sidewalks in front of the school, Tim Sinclair has that on his list to do, and he did ask when school was going to be out, and then I let him know.
What's he going to do there?
He hasn't given me a definite date yet.
But what is he going to do?
Oh, he's going to repaint the crosswalks on the street
Okay,
there
good.
on Eastern and 4th Street. What else was there?
Eastern and Third will be patched next week, so that.
Right, where they did that work where that new duplex went in, so that'll be taken care of and help with the traffic along the school. And as we get through the agenda, we'll talk about the sidewalks.
Good deal. Any public comments? None. Then let's move to general discussion. A, approval of the minutes. If you've had a chance to read them. I read them this afternoon. They look right to me.
Motion to approve?
Second. Approved, and second. All those in favor? And it's approved. Approval of type B, financial statement. Charles. Oh,
Is that mic on, Charles?
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Board. What I'll do today is attempt to present the October and November financials. First is the October 31st financials. What I have here is we had a sales revenue of $29,007, which is right around target for the month of October. We had expenditures of around $7,000, which left about $22,000 in the good, which is very good at that time for the first month of this new year. And then for the numbers of the money market account, if there's any questions, we had $455,300, which is in contrast to what we had about this time last year of $382,855. So we are expanding and moving up. Most of that is due to we didn't have as much capital expenditures or a lot of activity with the operating expenses, which is a lot of kudos to Don Martin. We used to have, in the previous years, a lot of training and travel expenses, quite higher than normal. Don Martin keeps that in mind and try to limit those operating expenses. So that's why we are well into the surplus at this time. If there's any questions for the month of October, I stand by for any questions.
Move to approve type B financials for October.
got a motion?
Second?
A second. Any more questions? All those in favor? Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it.
Okay, November's real quick.
That is true.
My apologies. The year-to-date total for revenue, from that 29,000, we got another 26,000 of revenue for the month of November, which came to $54,470. That's right round target for that. That's pretty good. The expenditures came to about $19,480 for the year-to-date through November, which leave a total around $35,000 to the good at the end of November as far as revenue to expenditures. That's very good. And then for the money market account, it increased to $477,951. That's about $22,000 increase from the previous month. And then from the previous year of November, we had $396,833. So that's once again, a great surplus of about $81,000. So as you can see, it's increasing in total. We are increasing in revenue and decreasing in the expenditures, which is all favorable. That's the end of the November report. In a summary, if you have any questions on any detail, I'm here to answer any.
Charles, I thought we had been making quarterly payments on the community center. Are we making those every other month now?
Yes, we have made that for the month of, starting in November.
Are we doing monthly payments now, or are we
Yes.
doing,
We doing the monthlies.
okay.
Yes, sir.
I thought we had been doing quarterly for some reason.
Now, we try to keep it more monthly.
Okay.
We did most of that last year, but the year before, we did do quarterly. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Got a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, have a motion. Second?
I'll second it.
And all those in favor? All those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles?
Thank you, Charles.
Charles, I got one question. How come on the payment to the community center, why does it say annual payment every month?
On the,
Just on my line item?
well, we put annual payment because during the budget, we annualize everything.
Okay.
But for detail for month, I can just show monthly payment for
Okay, I
that.
just wondered,
Absolutely,
that may have been went through.
Yeah.
Us all. Good deal. Thank you, appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.
Can we go back to who approved the minutes? Who made the motion?
I got
Who
it.
seconded it?
I've got on the last one, Ms. Schramm and Mr. Smith.
No, on the minutes, the first one.
Oh, the minute with Moses and Schramm.
Okay, thank you.
You liking I wrote that down now, aren't you?
Thank you, sir.
When you said something, I said, you know what, I'm gonna write them down.
Because he asked me, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't catch it.
All right, moving on to D. Discussion direction to staff on adding a sidewalk to the new basketball court.
All right, thank you. You should have a little map there, a bunch of them, actually. I believe it was the smaller one. I can get through there.
This guy?
Yeah, that kind of shows where the new court is, because our satellite does not have the new court yet. And then we kind of went out and we need a sidewalk to the new one. That way they're not walking across the current basketball court or the older one through the middle of the game. So kind of came up with a little design there to take it off the sidewalk, maybe make a little seating area, another bench place, or make it even slightly wider. Maybe we could put a table or something in between the two. Maybe in the future do some shade or something like that. So that's kind of the plan, the drawing I came up with. And then I had Mr. Kevin Koff, the local concrete guy, go out, and he did give us a quote on that. I can't remember if I brought that.
It was in our packet, right? It was like
I
11,
think it was emailed in your packet,
11,000?
but I don't remember if we got it printed out.
6,000 or 11,000, I can't remember.
There was, the last time there were two bids, one for the bridge.
Fixing the bridge, right. That was about 15,000, and the other was,
that's what it was.
it's just been a kind of a hectic day, so,
Could I ask a question?
sure.
The drawing looks like you kind of cut up and do a sidewalk and bring it away from the court and all that. Can we just square it all up and make it all concrete against concrete to make it easy to clean and?
I mean, we can, yeah, it'll increase the cost a little bit,
It
but
won't be. And then how big is your pad there? I know we talked originally when we were all doing this with Molly a year or two ago. We thought, let's make it big enough where we can actually come back and maybe put a covered area for shade there. How
Right.
big is that area? How
I
big
I know my drawing's not to scale because I did it kind of by
That's all right,
hand
yeah.
on the map, but I had it 5-foot sidewalk going over towards, and then I think I had it like 9 or 10 feet coming off the court. That would leave like enough room for a bench and another 4 or 5 feet. So it's about 10 feet wide on the long rectangular part.
I like Donnie's idea, because then we can, I don't know what they call
Look,
them, on,
The shade sales.
yeah.
Yeah,
Shade sale, we
putting
can
it-
do a three-piece shade sale over that for shade at a later date.
Are you just talking about a triangular, just the whole thing triangle? Yeah.
Yeah, make a
Yeah.
triangle traffic light.
Is there a reason, I mean, we're not gonna encroach into something we're not supposed to be into, like the water, whatever,
no, we should be fine.
or have to really build it up to?
And we'll just have to come back to you. I think he had on that quote, like I said, I don't think I brought it with me, but
That's what I was talking about, just squaring it up.
yeah, we can do that. It may add a little bit to it. I forget, he had the price on there per square
Yeah,
foot.
it's right here. I can read it to everybody. It says, new basketball court sidewalk and possible seating area, $6,500 at $6 a square foot. And it's around 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, so if we added a little bit to
You'd
it,
have
that's
to
what you're looking
get
at,
your
not too much.
Cover and all that stuff. All right, so we need direction. Direction would be to move forward with
Yeah,
making it
do it.
just wider, more rectangular
Yeah,
shape.
let's do that.
Enough room, we got enough room for picnic table,
Did you say $6 a foot?
not picnic
Uh-huh.
table,
That's
park
what
bench
you
and
read, yes.
cover maybe.
$6.
I'm going to ask another question real quick. Where would the lights go? I know we talked about that yesterday, kind of preemptively. Would they be on the other side so that way it didn't affect what concrete we decide to do right now?
Well, that, we're still waiting to hear back from United Co-op. We've been playing phone tag with each other between the three of us. But yes, they more than likely would be closer to the street. That way they're not shining
On the street.
on the street.
Okay.
Exactly, as.
That's good.
Even right now, those three that are there, as you pull out and they're kind
Yeah.
of bright. But if they're facing away from the street, so yes, they would be on the opposite side.
Okay, perfect. So it's not going to impede what we do here.
No.
Perfect.
As long as it's doable with them, which it should be.
I have a question. I don't know if we can give you the lateral decision-making. Could I make a motion that we say we would like to approve $10,000 for this, up to $10,000 for this sidewalk and walking area? Does that make sense? And then,
Yes? we-
right now, you're at 1,000, but if he says it's gonna be 1,200 or 1,500, I mean, that gives you the latitude to, what do you think?
Do the whole thing.
Well, yeah, to kind of, because, I mean, if we can approve today, you can go back out there and finalize the drawing, and we can help you or whatever you need.
Right. That's fine. We can do that.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
We'll entertain a motion then to approve the sidewalk at the new court not to exceed $10,000.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
There you go.
Michelle, any more discussion? All right, all in favor? 6-0.
Did you get all that? Okay. Because I didn't.
But he wants the more square one.
More square one.
Yeah.
All right, F, discussion and direction to staff on sidewalk expansion.
We kind of brought this to council last month, I believe, and talked about it, and I know some of you had asked about extending the project. So again, in your packet, there's maps, and I did a little PowerPoint presentation as well. See if I can get this to work.
To manually advance.
That's a long ways away, isn't it?
It works from down there. All right, how do you just,
Let's move the arrow.
Where's that convenience store?
Hit the arrow.
that's new ones coming in. Right. So basically, when we started this project, we had that $230,000, which is left over from bond proceeds. Initial project was, we had a balance of $78,000. We added 2 sections, a little bit going up Eastern and a little bit going down, or 4th Street, up 4th Street. That left us a balance with the 2 new sections that we did add going further down Eastern. So not, right now, we've got a balance of about $45,000. So this was the original sidewalk. I know it's kind of blurry and hard to see, but it shows. And you should have a map. And then you can see where the orange extended up from 3rd Street to 1st Street. That's where we're at right now.
I don't know.
So at that point, am I going too fast for you?
No, you're good.
Oh, I see.
So that's kind of where we're at right now at this point. And we're kind of at the end of 1st Street, where 1st Street touches Eastern, but there's a big wash or bar ditch there, and it's going to take a lot of engineering because when we get heavy rain, there's like 3-4 feet of water screaming down there. We do have a sewer line that's not super deep right there, and we have a water line that's not super deep. So that $45,000 is going to be pretty much gone to do a bridge just over that little section right there.
Just out of curiosity, why do you need to have a bridge? Why couldn't you just say low water crossing and when it's deep, don't cross? Because the road's gonna have water across it anyway. Why do we need to carry a bridge for a sidewalk over there? Why can't we just take the sidewalk the same level as the road?
It would probably wash the sidewalk out, to be honest with you.
Okay?
When it rains, there's trash cans that go flying down that
No, I
street.
understand. I know.
All the way down, they end
As
up
a
in
kid, we
that
used to
ditch.
go down there and run down that water.
Times has changed, sir.
Kids
It's not a
still
playground
go over there.
Yes. So the water needs to go under the sidewalk. There needs to be a bridge. It needs to be either that or it's make the kids cross the street, go on the other side of the street. But how many times are we going to do that every time we run into a little obstacle? I mean, ideally, it would be nice to have a sidewalk on both sides of the street, but that's years down the road.
But it's only gonna be a problem if it's raining
True.
for the bridge.
Right, but right now, they would have to get to that section, walk out into the street, and then go back
That had to
onto
be
the
a-
sidewalk again.
It'd be a pretty big bridge to cover all that water that goes across here.
It would, yeah, it's probably about 40 feet long, yes.
Plus, it's got to meet all the ADA requirements if
That's
we
why we
do
should
that,
just
so.
make really good concrete at ground level.
Well, that's why I'm coming to you with other options, because right now we're just discussing, what are we going to do with this $45,000 we got left over? We've already kind of brought that to council, and they gave some recommendations. One of them was to continue up 4th Street a short period.
Whose $45,000 is it? Cities or is it ours?
It's the cities.
Okay.
What's
It's
the
all
cost to get, I know you may not know, is there a estimated cost per foot for sidewalk, including engineering? Just a rough number?
Not that off the top of my head, I mean, there is, but there's a lot of factors, and some of those are on these next couple of screens. It's like, do we have to move any utilities? Is there any elevation change where we may have to put a retaining wall? How many ADA ramps are going in during that short period? Do we have to move meter boxes, gas lines, telephone poles? There's a lot to it. Unfortunately, when this town was originally built, it wasn't designed for sidewalks, so there's a lot of areas that are challenging.
So the smaller portion of the L that's in orange over here on this thing, that is 4th Street.
Yeah.
And so we've done a good section of Eastern. Is it worth trying to take 4th Street and sidewalk all the way to Fairview? Is that Fairview?
Correct.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen.
We can't read, it's so far away.
You got one right there next to you.
Which screen?
One right there on your left.
The screen
It's black.
shows options.
It's black.
Wait,
Oh, well, turn it on.
Well, it was on earlier. I don't know why it disappeared.
All right, so these are some of the options I came up with and then that I also presented to council. So it's continue the sidewalk from Eastern, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself, wrong screen. So the option was to go Eastern to Pecan, go up Pecan Street, and then go all the way to Fairview, and then go to the park. That was, the original, and that's what you had asked me to come back to you, the price. The price roughly, again, without moving all those challenges, is about $450,000 to do that project, just from the distance.
I'm sorry, I was talking. Back up 1 minute and tell us where the 450 is coming from. Not coming from what that would be used for, I apologize.
That would be continuing up Pecan Street, once we go all the way to Pecan Street,
I got it.
up Pecan Street, right on Fairview or north on Fairview, and then all the way into the park right there across Pioneer.
That's the blue line.
And that's skipping the bridge.
Yes.
The
yes.
bridge is not part of it.
Right. I briefly discussed it with our engineers, but I haven't given them the go-ahead to start working on it because they're going to charge me money for it, so kind of waiting on direction. So anyways, that was one of the plans that you had asked about. So roughly to do that, it's around $450,000 just in the linear footage of the sidewalk that needs to be done. Like I said, there are other challenges with, like in front of where Mr. Barnes has those duplexes right next to the elementary school on Pecan. There's about a 6-foot,
Great issue.
you know, wall that we would have to put up because of the grading. So anyway, so there's many challenges, 1288 ramps, elevation changes, and it's going to require engineering for some of that stuff.
I apologize, but you probably said how many feet that is, that project?
It's on one of those maps.
Yeah, on this map, it's got the footage on it.
Thank you. I'll keep my crap.
It's like about 3,700.
3,700?
Just add it up real quick in my head.
Yeah, so that one section would be 600 feet, and then if you went up Pecan is 1,200 feet, and then,
It's like 3,500 feet total.
right, so it gets quite a bit. Then there is another map in there also that you had also asked about, possibly connecting the Calicut Park Pond, Swayu Pond with the park. So I did another map with a little bit of footage on there as well. So we do have another option as far as going up 4th Street, like Mr. Smith was talking about. So where we left off at Spruce on 4th Street, if we go from Spruce to Gale Lane, which is that next little cul-de-sac street, that would require 2 ADA ramps, and that Kevin gave me a price of $21,700 to do that. And then if we continue past north from Gale Lane to Fairview with 2 more ADA ramps at the 2 corners, that's about $43,000 more. So we do have the money now to do that $21,000. So again, it's only a few hundred feet, but it's going to get us farther. So that's the recommendation I'm going to take to council tomorrow, 2 days from now.
2 days
Yes.
Can we discuss, or we?
Yeah, yeah, any thoughts?
I don't think I have that on a map,
I have thoughts.
but it would.
What would you rather,
Well, I'm just, again, I'm not a parent, and I can speak for the kids at the school, because I represent that school, but I'd like to see what it costs to finish all the way to to 2280 on 4th Street.
For the,
All
for
the way
the
up to the
kids
bank.
walking.
on 4th Street?
But can
Put a
we,
sidewalk on the entire 4th Street.
can we use our money for that if we're not connecting to the parks?
Well, don't ask. I don't know, honestly.
Well, I want,
Well, you can say that because there is a park on 4th Street towards your
Yeah.
house.
They don't say how far we can meander, so eventually we could get to the park. So,
I'm sure there's ways to do it, to
So,
make it happen.
do we
Whether
know
we
how
did it a little.
much traffic is on 4th Street versus Eastern and of kids walking?
There's more
4th Street is terrible.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you go
tried-
there, you gotta go 2 miles an hour, you're gonna smack kids.
the reason I
walking
like
down the
4th Street, personally, me, is a couple reasons. Number one, because there's lots of kids, right?
Uh-huh.
Number two, you go to College Drive, and there is a sidewalk on College up the road a little bit, so we could tie to that eventually for not too expensive a cost, and maybe the state would help us because it's a state road. Going all the way to 2280, you now catch a sidewalk that's already there. So now if I'm at the Swahoo Park, I started to say at our park, if I'm at Swahoo Park, I can at least walk all the way to the public school on a sidewalk. If my kids are going that way, they can do the same thing. I can't, I don't know if we can afford that or not, but I mean.
Yeah, we'll have to look at all that.
let me ask you a question, Don. So one thing to keep in mind, that 4th Street section is one of the top-tier priority streets to fix as far as our list of capital improvements. How would that,
Can you,
Oh, yeah.
how would that affect?
can you work them together? I mean,
Well, yeah, I'm a little bit afraid if we
Because-
did a sidewalk there and then
Tear
we
it all
tore,
up.
yeah,
and
tore up
put
the
it in
street,
and
it would
take it out.
mess that up.
All right.
When are they gonna
Probably
do
about
that?
3,000
Or do we have any
square feet
timeline?
there.
3,000?
We don't have a good timeline.
$5 more
less-
million
So
dollars.
the other one was
Well, less than
128.
5 years, I hope. So I know that's kind of a
Yeah,
bad answer, but it just depends on how much, how many buckets we can fill up with different tax funds to do that, so.
But I'm gonna parlay off of that. Judging by what you guys did on the sidewalks on Eastern, you kept them off the roadway, so that way they're not part of the actual curb.
Correct.
So does that give you any leeway to say
It
go
does a
for
little bit, but when you have, where you're reconstructing a total street, you have to go about 2 feet beyond where the curb is. So if you go 2 feet beyond where the curb is and the sidewalk's only 3 feet, more than likely it's gonna get damaged.
Because they're gonna be replacing all the utilities, you guys, the water
Right.
lines.
When do you, when's your target to do that?
That'll kind of depend on this next budget cycle with how aggressive council wants to get with funding street projects, which I can't speak for them, but I imagine that's, about as aggressive as we can get. It's a high priority, right? We're trying to do some things to bring funds in from different sources to fund specifically streets. So realistically, 3 to 5 years. I know that sounds like a long time, but it'll all depend on growth and everything else. I'm hoping to do that whole street within 3. That's my goal. So, and again, that's a long time, but when you're talking $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is, so it'd be pretty expensive, so.
Is it gonna be fixed differently than last time? Like a
Yeah.
different process? Because, we fixed it, 7, 8 years ago and didn't take long.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Well, I think the section you're talking about on 4th Street near the school, that was basically, we did that in-house. We milled it, zipped it, reshaped it, and you have
Made
to.
it better, and then it got
We
bad.
did, yeah, it did, because, well, you have to do that every 3 years with chip sealing. Now, if you went hot mix or concrete, you're gonna get 10 to 15 years out of it, roughly. But 4th Street needs to have the sewer line replaced under it, other than that short section that we did
Right.
from Spruce down to the school,
I don't-
because it's old clay line.
I don't want to be presumptive, but we're pretty good candidates for grants, and I'm pursuing every grant possible, and I hope to get a grant next year, but, who knows?
Yeah, you're right,
So-
I understand.
Yeah.
Right, we're currently 80–90% approved for one, and that's to do Fairview Street from 4th and as far as we can. We're shooting to go all the way to Pecan, but we may only make it to 1st Street with the $500,000-ish grant that we've applied for and are almost approved for.
On 4th?
Fairview, from 4th. And the reason we were able to get that street is because we could use the senior center / food bank as a central, everybody in the city uses it. That helped us qualify for that particular street.
That's good. It's a heavy street.
It is.
Okay, well, let me rethink that for a minute. Let me ask you this. Let's say we as a board said, hey, that's our number one goal would be to put a sidewalk all the way to 4th Street, and then I have some other ideas. And we do have to delay because, you might have a grant to rebuild the road on 4th Street. Is there any reason we couldn't throw money at it to get it engineered?
I don't see why not.
I mean, why couldn't
Yeah,
you
we
make
could
it?
get it teed up, yeah.
Why couldn't you tee it up like you just said, get it, spend the engineering money to get it ready to go? And I don't know, I'm just talking out.
is that gonna change, that engineering gonna change if they redo the road, though?
I don't know.
It'll,
But it helps
You don't
speed it
wanna waste the
along
money.
and
Have it done conditional to the road.
get it done.
I don't know.
Well,
Do we know everything that's in the ground there though now, because, right?
that's all got to come up also when we redo that. It's an old clay pipe, and so there's a mess there. It's, that one that Don was talking about, it's $550,000, and so it's roughly the same scope plus all our utilities, so, 800,000 or so plus by the time we get there. So it's a pretty big project.
You're talking about just the sewer line replacement?
The sewer line and, complete street redo of the road. So,
Right. So this was the other map that I was talking about. We'll get back to that. sidewalk connecting the park and the pond. There are dimensions on there, on the map you have. Some of the challenges there would be, I don't have a price yet. We would need at least 2 ADA ramps. There's 2 bar ditches, which would require, some type of bridge to go across, or a sign that says, hey, there's water here, don't cross. FM 2280 has very high traffic, so it'd be a good idea to meet with TxDOT, kind of get their thoughts on it, and discuss a possible light at Pioneer. That way, if people, and we did have a sidewalk there, there could be a light instead of the current situation that we have now in front of the gym and the duck pond as it is, where there's a crosswalk and the majority of the people don't want to stop.
I spent the night in Grapevine Friday night, and they have pedestrian crossings that they're really cool because they make noises and they
light up.
do that.
Right, right.
Is that because that's a city street and not a, I mean, is there,
I-
why couldn't we do that with the state's help?
I'm sure we can. We've had a new local area engineer just take over recently. We haven't had the opportunity to sit down and talk and meet with them yet. So that's many things that we would like to discuss. Get a good partnership going, talk about the crosswalk that's here, and maybe we can help pay for some of that if necessary, if they can't do it all.
Is there any kind of signage or signal that we can put at that one crosswalk there that's already there on 2280 at the gym and going across to Calicut Park?
That's why we need to get with TxDOT, with the new local area engineer. We kind of started that conversation when Janet Crawford was here, but then when she left, it all kind of got dropped and forgotten. So there's a lot of things
Will
that we need to
SWAU
come back.
just give us this land for the sidewalk?
Would they give us the land?
I mean, we're improving
I
their.
don't think we discussed with him yet. I know there's been conversations in the past about,
Yeah,
Don't
so
need-
it depends. If it can go on the right of way, we didn't get a permit from TxDOT. Do they have plans to widen that road at some point? Do they have plans to put in curb and gutter, or they do have curb and gutter, but get rid of the bar ditch and maybe put some storm drains in or something? That would help. But,
I've always liked the idea of putting a sidewalk there because if you walk it all down there, you can't get to the park without walking on the state highway.
right,
So for me, it would be, I'm not trying to discount the need for sidewalks for kids.
right, I understand.
To me, this seems like a pretty easy project as far as engineering feats, because there's not a lot of obstacles. That's just my opinion.
It does connect a big walking track around the pond with the park.
It does. And even on the other side of the street where the gym is, there's a lot of people that'll walk down the sidewalk
They walk to
in
nothing.
front of Sonic, Dollar General, in front of SWAU, but then when they get to the gym, they gotta go out in the street. And they walk from the street all the way down to the park. And they're in that little shoulder, and that is dangerous.
So what do you need from us?
Yeah, the question is, what do we use
mean, we talked about-
45,000 on, right?
I mean,
I don't
that's-
think you're gonna
that's-
use the
that's a-
45,000 on this, because it's
He was
too
saying he's
much.
taking the chamber 2 days from now to spend some of that
Yes,
45.
we're gonna go to
chamber
council.
Council, I'm sorry.
We're gonna go to, correct, we're gonna go to council with that 45,000 we have left. I'm gonna recommend, obviously with your help, your recommendation helps too, to do, at least maybe go up 4th Street, that $21,000.
I
that
like
we
that
have
idea, except for like, if we're gonna just tear it out, to put in a new road, then that's not a good idea.
Yeah, well, again, it's gonna be at least 3 years. And where we're going on that side of the street, like he mentioned, we can do it. It's not gonna be right up against the curb.
Okay, so you're giving conflicting information. You're bringing it to our attention that we're gonna replace the road, so we need to be careful maybe on what we spend on a sidewalk there. And now you're saying that you might be able to put a sidewalk in because we may not be going up to it.
In that particular section. Other
Is there-
sections have other challenges. This particular section, going up Gale, from Gale
Yeah.
to Fairview,
Far enough off the road.
isn't bad. There's a good 10 feet between the curb and the right-of-way with only a few utilities and a few houses.
Okay, I think that's probably the best idea then.
If we go on the other side of the street, we've got a lot of
Personally.
drive's, a lot of approaches,
that
there's a
gets
little
us towards what we're
elevation
talking about.
change. We may not be able to get as far away from the street as possible.
That's good. What would the board think about doing the engineering and maybe the funding of the sidewalk to College Drive on 4th Street from the existing sidewalk that's already there and couple with the money that you already have and are gonna go to the council with. And maybe also at the same time, looking at engineering the sidewalk from the pond to our park.
We can look at that. I'm still trying to learn all the dollar values of when we have to do public hearings and when we have to do them as projects. I've been trying to research all that. I haven't had a lot of time with all the other stuff that's going on. So my plan is to come back to you guys next month with a list of, say, 5, 6 projects, and then we'll go through and say, okay, we want to designate these as projects because they all are going to cost more than $10,000. And then we have to start doing the public notices, the 60 days, it has to go to council as well. That's my recommendation, is to kind of come back to you guys, and that's kind of why I'm doing some of this, is getting a feel of what direction you want to go. Do we want to, throw in the pickleball course? Do we want to do a whole sidewalk project? Things like that, trying to get a list going.
Skate park.
Sorry, go ahead. Were you talking?
No, skate
Oh.
park is the one.
Did you say water?
As a city, are we, so like, I'm looking at Bristol Oaks because that's the closest thing to the newest thing we have there on 4th Street, and the sidewalks are right up against the curb and gutter to the street, correct? They're not set back, are they? The sidewalks are right up against?
Most places there's a 3-foot separation between, inside Bristol Oaks.
He's talking about on
There's a
4th Street.
little strip there on 4th Street in front of that one house.
They put 2 new homes there, at least 1 new home
Yeah.
on.
One new home, yes.
And it has a
And then-
sidewalk, and we don't remember if it's attached to the curb or if it's set back.
I think there's a 2 or 3 foot separation there, is what
Okay.
the plan's called for.
And isn't that part of the ordinance? Oh, that's a development, that's a,
Correct. Our ordinance is not real clear, like when somebody builds one house. It talks more about a subdivision, require sidewalks are in. So I'm kind of dealing with that now, that when somebody builds just one house, they should be required to put a sidewalk in front of their house, whether there's one next door or not.
because then they're eventually.
But our ordinance
they
isn't
all
real
meet.
clear on that.
Yeah, but if you did that, you'd have one on one side of the street, one on the other side of the street.
Yeah,
Why
but
don't you-
eventually,
And there should be a sidewalk everywhere, on both sides of the street. There should be. Now, some, just the way the city's designed, the way houses were built 100 years ago, it may be almost impossible to do that, but we can do the best we can. And try to take the burden off of everybody, a little bit at a time,
So do you need a motion or something to move forward, or just a conversation?
just conversation.
Well, I'll reiterate one more time what I'd like to see. It's just me. I can't speak for everyone. I'd like to see us continue the thought process of coupling with the money you're gonna talk to the council about for the sidewalk on 4th, and see what it would take to finish that sidewalk from 4th all the way to College Drive in that area you were talking about. Does that make sense?
It does, but you remember, if you're talking about the $45,000 we have left over,
Yeah.
That only gets us to Fairview.
if we go to just from Spruce Street to Gale Lane, which is just 2 houses basically back to back, that's half of that money right there.
So I understand.
The other half isn't even gonna get us to Fairview Street.
I understand, but
Right.
I'm asking you to see what it would cost to finish the project all the way to College Drive.
Okay, yeah,
But also
my
the-
opinion.
But also the engineering.
Yeah,
See what
everything,
costs
whatever it
engineering.
takes.
right.
I mean, it's got to be done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I understand your funds aren't gonna go very far, but it's a start.
That's why we kind of need to put it all together. I want to come back to you like next month and say, hey, look, I've got these 5 projects that we want to list as projects. Let's go ahead, put them in the paper, do our advertisements, do the social media for the public, get their input, and we can be that much farther ahead of the game. Because each one of these projects we're talking about is going to either have to go before the voters or do it, like I said.
Yeah, that's cool.
As a project, we designate these 5 projects for X amount of dollars. This is what we're going to do. They got 60 days to come to the board and/or council and speak their mind.
Can I offer one more suggestion? And I'm just, again, it's my opinion. So back to this drawing here. If we stay on the blue line and we continue doing sidewalks on the blue line and we don't do anything on 4th Street, then we don't run into we have to tear up sidewalks all the way past College of things that we're already thinking about doing, and we're double doing things up 4th Street until we know what 4th Street's going to be impacted by, because there's utilities right outside of, And I'm talking like phone lines and power, power and stuff underneath the road, right off the road. So they may want to dig those up too. And then here we've got sidewalks right over top of stuff like that.
You got the same issue on Fairview,
Yeah, you do, I know.
all the way down to like
I
Pioneer.
mean,
Yeah,
That is not a good road either.
it's a terrible road. Go drive it. And like there by, Oliver Technologies,
That's horrible.
Oh, that's horrible too.
it's,
Oh, very bad.
It's all bad.
and then you get up there by
99% of our
that trailer
streets are that
park.
way.
Pick a road.
fall-
your point is well taken for the.
I mean, I'm just trying to,
If there's a
Yeah.
telephone line under the sidewalk, they're probably not gonna move it, I would think. I don't know.
Right.
But if it ever has trouble, they'll have to cut it out and fix it and then put
Right.
our concrete back. I mean,
well, I guess the point I'm making is if this is going to be a 3 to 5 year project, well, then we know that Fairview and Eastern and those areas are gonna be way further down the road where at least we've got some safety in place for kids that are walking those streets. And I guess we gotta tear some things up, we gotta do it, right? But the immediate need is don't mess with 4th Street till we know what 4th Street's gonna look like. I mean, I agree with you about paying the engineering cost to,
I don't wanna do that if they're gonna redesign the road. They're just trying to move us forward. We've been talking
Yeah.
about this for a long.
I know, and I'm,
Well, if we can go,
But can't we go to
if we
college?
can at least get up to Fairview. I mean, if we, well, yeah, I don't know. So Brent, where were the biggest challenges at for sewer pipe and stuff on 4th Street?
I think it runs right down the middle, didn't you
Yeah.
say?
But that's 4th to Old Betsy, right? Not 4th to Eastern. Is that correct or wrong?
The only new sewer pipe is from Spruce Street to Eastern
Which one
on
is
4th
Spruce?
Street. So everything else is old clay tile.
so we have sidewalk up to Spruce. So everything from Spruce all the way to Old Betsy is old clay pipe,
Yeah, I understand.
so.
So any sidewalk that we put in from Spruce Street towards College has subject to be ripped out because we have to replace the sewer pipe.
No,
Thank you.
sewer's in the middle of the street.
Sewers and mills.
Now, if we're gonna redo the whole street curb to curb, then depending on how close we can get the sidewalk away from the curb, it may be damaged.
So
But you said we can stay pretty far away from the.
It looks
How-
like we can.
How
in those
how far up
particular
4th Street can we stay pretty far away from the road? Just only.
Probably
where
to
you're
Fairview. Yeah, once you get past Fairview, then there's a big elevation change, the fences, and then the houses that are facing 4th Street.
Well, that's all, I mean, Fairview's more than halfway to College.
It is.
I mean, that would alleviate, if you get to Fairview, that would alleviate a considerable amount of the walking. I mean,
Yes,
alls I know is when I drive down there, there's just tons of kids walking right down the middle of the street.
there is.
But
4th
can-
Street
and so
needs
anything we
sidewalk.
can
They
do to
all- They
alleviate
all
that
do.
is gonna
4th
be
Street,
good.
you have CTA, you have, Bristol Oaks that is fairly new. Part of, Bristol Oaks was there was supposed to be a 32-unit apartment complex
On the corner.
on that corner of 4th and College, but they ended up doing Bristol Oaks, and one of the investors ran out of money apparently so the whole thing was sold and nothing's been done with that because their plan was our plans were gonna make them put a sidewalk all the way down and continue that to Bristol Oaks. That would have helped a little bit.
So my takeaway is this, that if we have the money, a sidewalk can be put anywhere that we can legally put one. I mean, so you talked about the challenges from Fairview to College with the changes and everything, and I don't disagree with that, but if let's just hypothetically say we had to go to the owners and say we want to buy some right-of-way or some easement, or whatever the term would be. I mean, everything is doable to a point until they
True.
don't want us to do it or won't let us do it.
Right.
But if we as a board said we want to take the sidewalk all the way to College Drive, and that was a directive as a board we ask you to do, it's doable as far as getting it engineered and telling us what it cost.
Yes.
Am I right or wrong? And then we want to make sure if we engineer a sidewalk anywhere on 4th Street, that if at all possible, we don't want it to touch the curb, because if you put any road in, you're gonna have to tear it up probably.
Correct.
So we want to set it back at least whatever your minimums are.
Right.
Am I saying it right, or everything I
You're
said?
absolutely right. I understand what you're saying.
So, what do we want to do?
I think that's great. I think if we can get
So we want,
sidewalk for the kids, that'd be great.
we want to give the staff direction to come back with the cost of engineering.
I'm gonna come back to you with 5 or 6 projects. Pickleball courts, what direction we wanna go with sidewalks. What are the best bang for your buck on those sidewalks? Do we wanna make it a whole citywide thing saying, hey, this is gonna be, $6.5 million and we're gonna knock out a little bit over the next few years? I mean, that's what I'm proposing to do, is bring you back these projects and follow the processes that we have to, if that makes sense.
I like the idea of a master plan for sidewalks like you have drawn here, that we could say, this is what we want to do in the next 5 years. This is what
Right.
we think it's going to cost, barring changes in pricing, but this is what our first phase is going to be.
Correct.
And then we can show that to the citizens of where we're spending the money, their money, our money.
Right. And that was kind of when we did the CIP plan for the next 20 years with water, sewer, streets. We took the worst streets, but we also took into consideration, do the utilities under those streets have to be redone? That was kind of why some of those got into that 1 to 5 year plan, some were a little bit later. Some could be done with just some basic maintenance, some overlay, similar to what we did near the school, and others were total reconstruction, total replacement. So that was all designed into our capital improvement program. Took all that information into consideration. Traffic counts, how much does it get used? Which ones they might be like this, but structurally they're fine. They can last another 10 years. It's just a little inconvenient driving on them, or others are just completely falling apart.
I like how he says that.
So
Inconvenient.
I'm just being honest.
If you
All right,
like
so we got
ski
direction?
ramps, if you like ski
Got
ramps.
direction from us?
Yes, I'm
You
good.
think
pay for
anything else?
locals.
Just get us some more economic development so we have more money. We
I-
want to help.
Have many things in the works,
A lot of good stuff.
a lot of good
We
stuff.
want to help.
All right, discussion and recommendation for appointing a new board member.
Correct. In your packet, you should have, before we just had the one from Mr. Gathings, I believe. And then, so we advertised, put it on our website, got direction for, oh, you didn't,
Didn't,
sorry. So we have 2. Did we email those to you?
They're
Okay.
Yeah, they were
So you
emailing.
had 2, one from Mr. Heinrich and one from, those are the only 2 we have. And they both said, I want to be on the B board. They didn't have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 choices. So need a recommendation from you to take to council for a final between those 2.
well, we all know Mr. Heinrich. I forget the guy's name.
Daniel?
Daniel, great guy, I met him, I know him socially. My question for Daniel would be, if he was here, what does he do for work and can he make these meetings? That's really the biggest question I had for him.
Right.
Hey, Daniel, he makes everything we ever ask him at the school.
Oh, does he?
Oh, yeah, he's at everything. If we have to have a meeting, he gets there.
He must have a.
I think he works early mornings. No, I think he works like early mornings. He's off pretty early.
Yeah.
What I can also do is, I haven't had a chance to reach out to either one and say, is this the only board you want to be on? Because I also am going to have an opening on my P and Z board here shortly. So,
Do you need a motion from us or just recommendation?
recommendation, I believe. So make a motion with a recommendation.
Do we want to table it until he
I was gonna,
talks to
I was
either
gonna make
one?
my motion pending that, and so like, my motion was gonna be something like, I recommend Daniel if he can make the meetings. That's a simple term.
Second.
Okay, that was my motion.
And we can also add into your motion, if you don't mind, that if one of them, or like Daniel maybe wouldn't mind being on P and Z,
Yeah.
I can also do that.
Daniel's your first choice, Gary's your second
Daniel will be
choice.
good on this board.
Yeah, and I don't like placing him like putting Gary
Yeah,
second.
well-
He's just done a lot for the city, but
Can
Daniel's
you,
younger.
can you make a motion like that, as
And-
far as having a first and second choice? Is that allowed?
That wouldn't be, it'd be
What's wrong with your
useless
first
with just
motion?
2. Yeah, we got a motion on the table.
His first motion.
Got a motion and a
If he
second.
can make the meetings, then he's it.
All right.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Anybody? All those in favor of recommending Daniel as our next member, raise your hand. All right, 6-0.
If you're watching, Gary, we still like you.
Oh, yeah, Gary, yeah, Gary's my hero. I love Gary.
Did we break up the cabal?
What's the cabal? I don't know what that is.
Where
All right.
only Adventists run the city.
Oh, I didn't even think about
I
it.
think we have loaded up on future agenda items,
Maybe Adventist.
Yeah.
seems like. So I'll
Yeah, unless
entertain.
there's anything else that
Can,
jumps out. Sure, go ahead.
no, I'm just gonna make sure, you're gonna talk about the pickleball courts, because I don't wanna drop that subject.
Correct.
I think if you haven't already mentioned it, we'd like to talk about lighting of the new basketball court.
Yes.
Um,
We're working on that now. We're just
Okay.
kind of waiting for the utility company to get back with us.
Cool. Can you either just do it or tell us how to do it? Can we buy a big squeegee to put down there?
I thought about that. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah,
It's just,
We know they might get
somebody gonna walk
stolen,
off,
but I mean,
walk off with it.
does anybody have a problem with them doing that?
No,
Buy
that'd be
it
great.
When it gets stolen,
What's that? We just,
buy one, and when it gets stolen.
yeah, buy two, because one's gonna get stolen.
Bear,
Get a good one, get stolen, get a cheaper one, get stolen, get a broom.
There you go.
I mean, a broom would work.
You're right, a broom would
If they
work.
can't, if we as a community can't keep the good stuff, then we'll just get a broom out there and
I have,
keep it off.
I have something. So Cleburne is building a skate park, and it's very, very popular.
Yeah.
Is that something we might consider?
I don't know.
We can talk about it.
There are parks.
What about a skate park at the park on Fourth Street?
Yeah, I was wondering that too, but didn't we mention that before and
We
somebody
had
said
it in
no?
the past, because if it was raining, it was concrete, it just wash right over.
So I don't know what it takes. I don't know how big they are. A lot of them are old swimming pools.
So,
Swimming pool?
Well,
No,
He said a lot of people use the
They're
old swimming pools
around.
for it.
old
Oh,
swimming
yes,
pools.
yes,
They
yes.
have one on
in Old
Fourth
Street.
Street, I mean, in Fort Worth on Allen.
I know that the pastor of the Cleburne Adventist Church is a big skateboarder,
Oh, yeah?
huge
you should
skateboarder.
consult him,
Well,
consult him.
I'm following him on Facebook.
Which pastor?
Pastor
Mike?
Charles,
Oh, really?
They just built a brand new one in Fort Worth right off the toll road.
yeah, he's been going to that one with his kids.
It's beautiful. It's
Pictures.
absolutely, it's well lit at night. Anyway, I think it's a great idea.
Something to
Looks
consider.
great.
So what'd you guys think about the Christmas market?
Nice.
Did
It's great.
any of them get to go?
I do
Yeah,
have
I
a
went.
question I
Sure.
don't really know the answer to. Why didn't it correspond with the parade and the fireworks? Why wasn't it all on
Okay,
one day?
the chamber offered it, and it was just too many things. We offered to have it all day, and we would delay the fireworks, either have it on the next week for another event, or have it after the lighting, but it just didn't go through this time.
I wasn't involved in the decision-making process.
Yeah,
I was like,
Maybe next time, maybe next year they
Yeah.
can get it all
Were
together.
you, Mr.
Well,
Left.
it would be nice also to investigate what it takes.
Okay. So you might have voted on something we don't know. Okay.
go ahead, Ms. Schramm, I'm sorry.
What it would take to bring better power to that area for those kinds of events. Because I know that there's a group that is trying to put together a committee to have farmers markets in that same area on a more regular basis, or some kind of trade fair days a couple times a year in that same area. And a lot of those booths and things want some power. And we did have power enough to decorate with lights and things, but not really to run anything else, do anything else. I don't know exactly how the people who were cooking did it.
I thought you just put a bunch of conduit in the ground.
We did. We extended 3, 4
Maybe we just
temporary boxes with each with 100 amps and breakers inside those. And then we had the little portable that we kind of wire into those boxes. So those boxes are permanent now, so there's 4 different locations by the pillars and by the football field, soccer field, whatever you want to call it. So those are there, and then we have the temporary boards that we had made that has like 10, 20 outlets on it that you can plug in. So it was fine for lights and stuff like that, but once you start getting into deep fryers, then,
Right.
you know, there may be some more issues.
Hot warmer.
As far as I know, everybody was on all that power, the lights for the pavilion, the Christmas tree. We were a little worried about, is it all going to work?
Well,
It did.
I blew out my power strip, but I had brought a second one.
You blew your power strip?
Yeah, I did.
What all did you have plugged in?
Or did you just blow your power strip?
I think it was just my power strip.
Quit shopping at Walmart.
Well, that too.
I'm gonna parlay off of your, for the next agenda item. You mentioned, somebody wanted to start a committee to be involved in the farmer's market. And one of the suggestions that I had is that the city or the type B board collect the fees for those vendors. So then that way we can use those fees from the farmer's market setup and tear downs to do fireworks and or the main events that the city of Keene does. So that way those can continue to thrive, and it's almost no money out of our pocket because farmer's market money, vendor money will actually pay for those events.
Well, Brent has left. Charles, I don't know if he has input on this, but when we collect money like that, I know that the celebration committee has had issues with the city collecting money because of the accounting, how it's accounted for.
In the past, there has been some issues prior to me coming on,
Okay,
and we kind of defer that to those committees because it's not city funded,
right.
so to speak, and we try to keep ourselves as far as liability of the city away from that. For all intents and purposes.
When you rent a baseball park, a baseball
The diamond.
diamond, when you rent one of those, they have to pay. Where does that fee go?
Yes, that's part of the park and recreation type fee.
It goes to us.
That's essentially, so the
So
farmer's
they
market
hold
in
the-
Burleson does the very same thing right there right behind Burleson City Hall. You online, you go in, you pay your $40 fee, and it's a 5 hours of marketplace activity, and you pay that money up front, and you're hoping to collect more than that when you sell your stuff. And so the city retains that money, which is what I'm kind of trying to,
Right. We can definitely look into that and set it up that way. There's no reason why we can't do it just like we did with the baseball fields or the community center, things of that nature. That can be done. That's something we can look at and bring back to you.
but because we are taking care of parks, that money should go to the type B board, and then that gives us the ability
Really
to.
have a discussion about it. You can make a suggestion and we can come
Yeah.
back.
There you go, that's
We
what I'm
can
talking
talk
about.
about it
Agenda
next
item,
time.
Next agenda item, thank
Be
you.
careful. Just trying to keep us out of trouble.
I appreciate
So
it.
yes, we can definitely look into some of that stuff, bring that back to you. And I know this last one, most of that was all donations, correct? For the market? Everybody's vendor fee, wasn't that some type of donation? Right, so there was really no money at this particular one. But I know they're looking at expanding it, making it multiple weekends, multiple days, things of that nature in the future.
We're gonna have the best in the Metroplex, that's what we're gonna,
There you go.
yeah.
I think you should make it the same day that you have the parade and the fireworks. That's all I want to say.
Agree.
You want that on another agenda?
No, I don't want, I'm just telling you.
Thanks,
And I
everybody.
did go, and it was really good. You did,
Motion to
everybody
adjourn.
did a good job. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right.
or whoever.
I missed the last bit. Okay, I gotta step in the meeting. Sorry.
Thank you.